Okay, so get this. We are headed to Scotland,
Scotland, nice.
to a town called Bonnybridge.
Okay.
And it's known as, get this, the town with the most UFO sightings in the world.
Wow.
So buckle up because we are diving deep into this.
Sounds good. I'm ready.
We're going to be looking at firsthand accounts.
Oh, wow.
We'll be talking local politics.
Interesting.
And even some encounters with, well, potential reptilians?
Reptilians, huh? I'm intrigued.
I know, right?
This is going to be good.
All of this is based on a YouTube documentary that really gets into the thick of it all.
I'm excited to hear about it. It's amazing how, this small town in Scotland has become like this central point in, well, UFO lore.
Yeah, it's not Roswell. It's not Area 51.
Right, right.
So give us a bit of, the lay of the land.
Sure, yeah. The documentary kind of shows it as a pretty typical Scottish town, somewhere in central Scotland, not too far from Edinburgh and Glasgow.
Okay.
It's got a population of, I think, around 7,000 people. Just normal people living their lives.
Right.
But then there's this area that they call the Bonnybridge Triangle, which encompasses Bonnybridge and the towns around it.
Oh, okay.
And that's where things get, well, a little strange.
Okay, a triangle. So how does it compare to, the OG triangle?
Oh, you mean the Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah, the Bermuda Triangle.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
To be honest, the documentary doesn't really get into that.
Huh, interesting.
But, it does make you think. They both have this kind of aura of mystery.
Right.
This reputation for strange things happening,
Yeah.
But with the Bermuda Triangle, it's all about disappearances.
Yeah, planes, ships.
Ships, right? Maritime disasters.
Right.
But Bonnybridge is all about the sightings.
Right, things appearing.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than disappearing.
People seeing things they just can't explain.
Okay, fascinating. And in the middle of all of this is local councilor Billy Buchanan.
Oh, yeah. He's an interesting character.
He seems so, well, I don't know, normal.
I know, right? Like a down-to-earth guy?
Yeah. Just in this very, very strange situation.
Absolutely. And that's what I think makes him so interesting, He even says in the documentary, "Call me Billy."
I love that.
No pretense.
Right.
Just a regular guy
Yeah.
trying to represent the people who are coming to him with these experiences,
Absolutely. And those experiences are many, like a lot.
Oh, yeah. The documentary mentions that over 60,000 people out of a population of 165,000 in that area claim to have seen something unexplainable.
Wow, that's a lot of people. Okay, so are we talking about like one type of phenomenon or is it like a mix?
That's what's cool about Bonnybridge is not just, your typical lights in the sky thing.
Okay.
There are all sorts of theories flying around. Time travel, underwater UFO bases, even government cover-ups. It's like everything's mixed together in this one small town.
Let's unpack that a little. What about this time travel idea?
Well, the idea is that maybe these UFOs are us, but from the future.
Oh, like time travelers.
Exactly. It's definitely a cool thought, but it makes you wonder, right?
Yeah. If they can time travel, why only Bonnybridge?
That's the thing. If it were possible, wouldn't they be everywhere? Why just this one little town in Scotland?
It's like they invented time travel to pop down to the shops.
Right. So the theory kind of falls apart there.
Yeah.
But it is fun to think about,
Yeah, totally. Okay, so what about this underwater UFO base thing?
Oh, that one. It's a classic, right? A secret base beneath the waves, launching these UFOs into the sky.
Okay, but is there anything to back that up, like any actual evidence?
Not that I've seen. It's mostly speculation because, well, Bonnybridge is near the sea.
Makes sense.
But the idea of underwater UFO bases, it's a common one.
Really?
Yeah, there are stories like that from all over the world.
Huh.
It's like we're fascinated by what might be hidden in the ocean.
Totally. Okay, so we've got time travel, we've got underwater bases. What about the classic government cover-up?
Oh, of course. That one never goes away. It's this idea that governments know more about UFOs than they let on, right?
Right.
And in Bonnybridge, Billy Buchanan is convinced that's what's happening.
Oh, really?
He's written to every single prime minister since 1992, demanding an inquiry.
Wow, he's persistent.
He's not letting it go.
It's amazing how this one, well, he's just a local councilor, has taken on this massive fight.
He's like David versus Goliath.
Exactly. It shows how strongly he believes something is going on.
Absolutely. It's like he's trying to validate what all these people have experienced, but he's facing this wall of, well, skepticism,
Yeah, it's this classic battle between personal experience and well, the powers that be. It's fascinating.
Totally. Okay, so before we get too deep into conspiracies, there's this one story from the documentary that I have to ask you about.
Okay, hit me.
It involved this American woman, Phyllis Schlemmer.
Okay.
She came to Bonnybridge claiming to have some knowledge about, well, why it's such a UFO hotspot.
Okay. And she traveled all the way from America for this.
Yeah, and get this, she wasn't alone.
Oh.
She had a companion with her, someone called Harmony.
Harmony. Okay, who is this Harmony? Why are they important?
Well, according to the documentary, Harmony had some, let's say, unusual features.
Like what?
People describe their hands as being, and I quote, like crocodiles.
Hold on, crocodile hands. What's going on here?
Yeah, so, this kind of fueled rumors that maybe Harmony wasn't entirely human.
Okay, now we're getting into, like, reptilian territory. What did Billy Buchanan think about all of this? He met Harmony, right?
He did, yeah. After Phyllis Schlemmer's presentation, Billy Buchanan went up to Harmony and said, "Everybody believes you're an alien."
Wow.
And years later, Billy Buchanan still maintains that Harmony was, well, not entirely human.
Okay, so we've got a local counselor chatting with a potential reptilian being. This is getting wild.
I know, right? It's like that line between the ordinary and the extraordinary just completely blurs in Bonnybridge.
Yeah, totally. And, the documentary also mentions abductions
Oh, yeah.
and even crop circles.
Right, right. Those are classic elements of, well, UFO stories.
But how common are they in Bonnybridge?
The documentary doesn't really say,
Okay,
but they do add another layer to the mystery, don't they?
absolutely. Are we talking about one phenomenon with, like, different ways of showing itself, or are there multiple things happening in Bonnybridge?
It's a good question, and one that the documentary doesn't really answer.
Okay.
It kind of presents them all together, but it leaves it up to the viewer to figure out what it all means.
So it's like Bonnybridge is a puzzle, and we're trying to fit the pieces together.
Exactly. It's like he's saying Bonnybridge is, like a special place.
Yeah, not just for UFOs, but for something, well, bigger.
Exactly. It's like cosmically important or something.
And in the middle of all of this, there's Billy Buchanan dealing with all these firsthand accounts, the government not saying anything, even the media making fun of it all.
It's a lot to handle.
Yeah, he seems really determined, though.
Oh, totally. He wants answers.
Yeah.
And he's not afraid to, rock the boat a little to get them.
It's like this basic human need to understand.
Absolutely. And it's not just lights in the sky, right? He talks about abductions, too.
Yeah, in crop circles.
That takes things to a whole other level. Those kinds of experiences can be, well, pretty intense.
And how do they fit into the bigger picture of UFOs? Is it all the same thing or something different?
That's the million-dollar question. Are we talking about one phenomenon with different sides to it, or multiple things happening at once? It's tough to say.
Yeah, the documentary doesn't really dive into that.
No, it doesn't. But it does make you wonder, what makes Bonnybridge so special?
Yeah.
Why are all these things happening there?
Right, why not Birmingham or somewhere else? Is there something about the place itself?
Some people think it's the geology or energy fields or even ancient sites that act like, I don't know, portals or something.
It's like we're missing a piece of the puzzle.
We are, yeah. But even trying to find that piece is fascinating. It makes you think outside the box.
And that brings us back to, well, the reptilians. You mentioned it's a popular theory. But why reptiles? What makes them the go-to alien?
Well, this guy, David Icke, wrote a bunch about it.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
He says there's this race of reptilian humanoids, the Babylonian Brotherhood, controlling everything.
Shape-shifting lizards running the world. Sounds like a movie.
It does, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think people like it because it explains some of the bad stuff in the world. Conspiracy, manipulation, all that. It's easier to blame it on lizard people than ourselves.
Like the boogeyman, but for the whole planet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how does this connect to Bonnybridge and Harmony? Well, the documentary doesn't say if Phyllis Schlemmer believed in that stuff. But Harmony's, unusual features definitely added to the whole reptilian thing.
It's like Bonnybridge is a magnet for weirdness. UFOs, cover-ups, time travel, lizard people, it's all there.
It is, yeah. It's this crazy mix of stuff that really makes you think about what's real and what's not.
Totally. But in the middle of all that, there's also this human story, Billy Buchanan representing a whole community that's dealing with something they don't understand.
He's like the everyman facing the unknown. And what's really powerful is his belief in the people of Bonnybridge. He trusts that they saw something real, and that means something.
It does, yeah. And it brings us back to his comparison between Bonnybridge and Bethlehem. What do you think he means by that?
It's a tough one. Maybe he's saying both events are life-changing. They challenge how we see the world. Or maybe he's pointing out how people doubted the birth of Jesus, just like they doubt the UFOs in Bonnybridge.
It's like he's saying Bonnybridge is more than just UFO sightings. It's something, well, something huge, maybe even world-changing.
And whether you believe that or not, just thinking about it can change you. It makes you question things.
Totally. So before we go too deep into the cosmic stuff, let's talk about Nick Pope.
Oh, yeah, the Ministry of Defense guy.
Right. Billy Buchanan calls him a, what was it, government agent provocateur.
Yeah, he implies that Nick Pope's job was to debunk the UFO stuff and make the witnesses look bad.
But then there's this twist. Billy Buchanan says that Nick Pope is now going around telling everyone there are 7 different types of aliens visiting Earth.
Whoa, that's a big shift. From debunker to believer, and not just any believer, a believer in a whole bunch of different aliens.
What do you think happened there? What could have made him change his mind so drastically?
It's hard to know without hearing his side of the story, but it makes you wonder what he saw or learned that convinced him. And if there really are 7 different alien species out there, what are they doing here?
Those are some big questions. But let's bring it back to Earth, back to Bonnybridge, and back to that fundamental question, are we alone?
That's the question that drives all of this, right? And while Bonnybridge might not give us a definite answer, it shows us that there are more possibilities out there than we can imagine.
It's about being open to the unknown and never stopping asking questions.
And maybe, out there somewhere, someone's looking back at us, wondering the same things.
Now that's a thought. But before we get too lost in space, there's one more thing we need to talk about. Misidentification.
Oh, right. That's important.
Our skies are full of weird stuff. Weather balloons, satellites, drones, birds even. They can all look strange sometimes.
Don't forget about military aircraft. They're designed to be sneaky, and they could do some crazy maneuvers.
And then there's natural stuff like ball lightning, meteors, auroras. They can be pretty spectacular.
They can, yeah.
Yeah.
So are you saying all the Bonnybridge sightings are just people misidentifying things?
Not necessarily. But it's good to be skeptical, Look at all the possibilities before jumping to conclusions.
Right, like Occam's razor, the simplest answer is usually the right one. But that doesn't mean we should ignore people who really believe they saw something strange.
Exactly. It's about respecting their experiences.
Absolutely. And in Bonnybridge, those experiences tell a story of a whole community dealing with the unknown. A community that's become a center for people who believe we're not alone in the universe.
And even if we don't find the answer to the Bonnybridge mystery, the search itself is worth it.
Totally. It's about exploring, learning, and pushing the boundaries of what we know.
So as we finish this deep dive into Bonnybridge, what's the big takeaway? What should people remember?
I think it's that the universe is full of mysteries. We may never understand them all, but trying to is what makes life exciting. It's what makes us human.
It's about being curious, questioning everything, and being open to the possibility that there's more out there than we realize.
And maybe, somewhere out there, someone or something is looking back, wondering the same things we are. It's funny, thinking about Bonnybridge, it makes me realize that there are other places like it all over the world.
Oh yeah, totally. Places that are known for weird stuff.
Exactly. Roswell, the Bermuda Triangle,
Yeah.
They all have that reputation.
They're like hot spots for the paranormal.
Right. And it's not just UFOs, it's ghosts, Bigfoot, all sorts of things.
It's like they become these, these centers for all the stuff we can't explain.
Yeah, it's like we need to believe in something beyond the everyday,
It's like these places offer an escape.
Totally. And even if we can't prove anything's really happening, just the act of believing can be powerful.
It makes you think differently.
Exactly. It opens up your mind to new possibilities.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Bonnybridge, what's the big takeaway? What should we remember?
I think the main thing is that the universe is full of mysteries. We may never solve them all, but that's okay. It's the searching that matters.
It's about being curious, asking questions, and always being open to new ideas.
And who knows, maybe somewhere out there, someone's looking back at us, wondering the same things we are.
That's a great thought. Well, thanks for diving deep with us.
It's been a pleasure.
And for everyone listening, keep looking up, keep asking those big questions, and never stop exploring. We'll see you on our next deep dive.